Prologue, 2 questions. 2 scenes, 14 centuries apart. The same question asked in different registers. Scene 1, the river Nirmada, 8th century. The cave at Omkeshwar, where a sage named Govinda Bhagavat Pada has been sitting in samadhi for a period that the tradition declines to specify precisely. The river is in flood, unusual for this time of year, dangerous, the kind of flood that rises toward cave entrances and does not care whose cave it is. A boy appears at the cave's mouth. He is not a boy in the ordinary sense. He walked here, alone, 2,000 kilometers on foot through 8th century India, which means through heat and dust, and the absence of anything resembling a road in the places he would have needed roads most. He is perhaps 16, perhaps younger. He has already memorized the 4 Vedas and has left behind a mother who consented, through tears, on a riverbank, with a crocodile releasing her son's leg, to his renunciation of household life. He finds the cave flooded. The sage inside is meditating. The flood is rising. The tradition records what the boy does next. He takes his kamandalu, the water pot, the only possession a renunciant carries, and places it in the path of the current. The flood subsides. When Govinda emerges from samadhi and sees the child standing at the entrance to the cave, he asks a single question. Kosi, 2 syllables, who are you? The answer comes as 6 verses. They are called the Nirvana Shatkam, the 6 declarations of liberation. They run as follows: I'm not earth, not water, not fire, not wind, not space. I'm not the senses, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, I'm not the ego, I'm not what any of these produce, not this, not this, not this. And then, at the end of 6 verses, in the space left after everything identifiable has been removed, Chidanandarupa Shivaham Shivoham, I am the form of consciousness bliss. I am Shiva, I am Shiva. Govinda initiated the boy immediately, as though he had been waiting for precisely this answer, as though the answer once heard was clearly the only possible correct response to his question, not a philosophical position, not a doctrinal affiliation, not an expression of the correct school's conclusion, but a report, a description of what is actually found when you look. The boy's name was Shankara. In 32 years, of which some were childhood, leaving him perhaps 24 years of productive philosophical work, he would write commentaries that scholars are still arguing about, 14 monasteries at centuries, the later, cardinal build, points 4 of a subcontinent, defeat every major philosophical school he encountered in public debate, and create a corpus of 46 texts designed to perform one operation on every mind that engaged them correctly. That operation is the subject of this book. But first, Scene 2, the Chandogya Upanishad, Chapter 6, perhaps 8 centuries before Shankara was born, a sage named Adalaka is teaching his son Shvetaketu. The son has just returned from 12 years of study, memorized the Vedas, mastered the prescribed curriculum, arrived home proud of what he now knows. The father looks at him. Do you know, says Adalaka, that by which the unheard becomes heard, the unthought becomes thought, the unknown becomes known? The son does not. He has spent 12 years learning what the curriculum told him to learn. He has not learned this. The father begins to teach. The teaching is an extended inquiry into the nature of Sat, pure existence, the ground of all appearance, the principle from which everything arises and into which everything returns. Adalaka uses analogies. Clay and pots. The pots come from clay, they are modifications of clay. When they return to clay, no information has been lost, because the clay was always what they actually were. Salt dissolved in water. The water tastes of salt everywhere, not just in one part. The salt cannot be seen, but its presence is undeniable. You taste it wherever you test. The body without the self, like a tree whose roots have been cut, the body can be kept alive briefly by watering its branches, but the life principle has departed. What is that life principle? Then comes the sentence. Tat tivamasi, that thou art, the pronoun tat, that, the pronoun tivam, you, the verb asi are, 3 words in Sanskrit, some of the oldest Sanskrit ever written, from one of the oldest philosophical texts in any language. The teacher says them to his son. At the ground of all existence, the Sat from which everything arises, you are that. The son hears it. The father pauses. Then in the text comes a detail that commentators have been discussing for 2,000 years. The father says it again, and again, and again, and again, and again, until the sentence has been spoken 9 times, each time anchored in a new analogy, each time with the same conclusion. Tat tivamasi, not 8 times, not 10, 9. Now here is what you need to notice. Because it is the first instance of something, this book will track across 46 texts and 14 centuries. These two scenes are not similar, they are not analogous, they are not two different approaches to the same philosophical problem, one apophatic and one cataphatic, one from the ancient past and one from the early medieval period, performing compatible but distinct operations. They are performing the same operation. Kossi, asks Govinda. The question strips every attribute. Every predicate, every description. You are not the body, who are you? You are not the senses, who are you? You are not the mind, who are you? The question does not stop until every identifiable thing has been removed. What remains when there is nothing left to remove? The Nirvana Shatkam does not answer in the usual sense of that word. It performs the removal and reports what is left, consciousness bliss, not a description, a gesture at the residue. Tat Tivam Asi, says Adalaka. 9 times. The sentence does not convey information in the usual sense of that word. It performs a precision operation on the hearer. Strip away the attributes of Tivam that contradict the attributes of Tat. Strip away the attributes of Tat that contradict the attributes of Tivam, and what remains when the stripping is complete? Essential feature that both terms share, awareness, pure and unqualified, not belonging to a finite person, not referring to an infinite abstract, but the awareness that was present in both terms all along before the attributes were added. Both scenes perform the same operation. Call it the subtraction, call it the scalpel, call it the subject-object split completed to its terminal point. The names belong to the technical vocabulary of later Advaita, and they will all appear in the chapters that follow. What matters now is the structure. There is an identifiable thing being removed, layer by layer. There is a residue that cannot be removed, because it is what is doing the removing. And the recognition of that residue, not its intellectual apprehension, but its direct recognition, is what both scenes are pointing toward. Shankara heard Kossi. He performed the subtraction in 6 verses. The subtraction was not new information. It was not a philosophical argument he had been taught and could now reproduce. It was a report from a position he already occupied, had always occupied before Govinda asked the question. Sh Vetiketu heard Tat Tivam Asi 9 times, not because Adalaka was unsure, or because repetition is pedagogically important in the abstract, but because the layers of misidentification are thick, and each repetition of the sentence is a surgical pass at a different layer. This book is about the machine that was built to deliver these surgical passes at scale, to every mind that engages with it correctly, in any century, in any cultural context, without requiring a Govinda to ask the question or a Adalaka to repeat the answer. Shankara built it. He had 46 texts to work with, 10 principal Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Prakarana Gruntas he wrote himself. He built them into a machine with 3 operating phases. The phases are precise. The sequencing is precise. The machine was not designed to persuade you of a philosophical conclusion. It was designed to perform the same operation that Kossi performs, the same operation that 9 repetitions of Tat Tivam Asi perform, on any mind that engages it with the right kind of attention. And the machine's most sophisticated feature, the feature that makes the Advaita Vedanta corpus unique in the history of human thought, is this. It was designed to make itself unnecessary. Every text in the corpus is a scaffold. The foundational texts install the categories, the middle texts deploy them, the advanced texts withdraw them. And then the radical texts, the Avadhuta Gita, the Ribhu Gita, the Ashtavakra Gita, perform the final dissolution. They do not merely remove the scaffolds they erected. They mock the reader who still thinks scaffolding was needed. They ask the question Govinda asked, but at the end of a 46-text curriculum rather than at the entrance to a cave. Kossi, who are you? After everything you thought you were has been removed, the answer was always the same as Shankara's answer. The curriculum's only purpose was to make the hearer capable of giving it. This book does not cover the direct path. It does not cover Atmananda Krishna Menon or Greg Good or Rupert Spira or any figure of the contemporary tradition. That ground was covered in the diamond cutter. What follows is purely about the source code, the 46 texts of the classical Advaita Vedanta corpus, and what the structural analysis of that corpus reveals about its design. The dual pass method, what each text says, its claims, its sequence, its cultural framing, and what each text does, the cognitive operations it performs on the reader's attention, regardless of cultural packaging. 2 texts may say entirely different things while performing the same operation. The Avadhuta Gita says, the self is all, and nothing exists apart from it, in Sanskrit verse, with no pedagogical scaffolding whatsoever. The Tattva-bodha says, let us define what is real and what is not real in question and answer format with extensive pedagogical scaffolding. The surface contents are opposite. The deep operation, the subject-object split, deployed at different phases of the same curriculum, is identical. This analysis uses two frameworks: the Minto pyramid principle, the governing thought of each text, its situation, its complication, its answer, and the structure of supports that lead from evidence to conclusion, and the scope and category operations that track how each text moves identity, contracting it away from gross and subtle structures, swapping the criteria for what counts as real, and finally expanding the residue to reveal it has no boundaries. The result is a structural map of a machine, not what the machine teaches, what it does. There is one distinction this book makes that the existing scholarship has largely missed, or rather, has noted without fully developing: the witness, the sakshi, the awareness that watches the body, watches the mind, watches the world, without being identified with any of them. The witness is the correct phase 2 destination. It is also the phase 3 trap. Identifying as the witness is a genuine cognitive shift. A real move in the baseline reference frame. You are no longer the body-mind. You are the awareness in which the body-mind appears. This is a significant achievement. Most practitioners never complete this move. The traditional literature rightly emphasizes it, but stopping there, stabilizing in witness identification, and treating that stability as the end point, produces the most sophisticated form of the very error the system was built to correct. There is still a subject. There is still an object. The split is intact. It has just been elevated. The seer is still over here, watching the display over there. Shankara's most advanced texts, Shurasvara's Vartikas above all, are specifically designed to spring this trap. Chapter 9 of this book is devoted entirely to it. It is the most important contribution this analysis makes beyond the two meta-analyses that preceded it, and it is the chapter in which the full scope of Shankara's engineering becomes visible. The witness is the last scaffold. It was always going to be removed. Return to the cave at Omkeshwar for a moment. Govinda has just heard 6 verses of progressive negation, culminating in I am the form of consciousness bliss. He has just recognized, in this extraordinary child, someone who has performed the complete 3-phase operation of the curriculum. He has initiated him. Now, what is Govinda recognizing? Without the he is not recognizing a correct philosophical position. He is not awarding a doctrinal certification. He is recognizing the operation having been performed, the subtraction completed to its terminal point, the residue identified, the expansion into the infinite already implicit in the Nirvana Shatkam's final gesture. And now consider Udalaka in the Chandogya. After the 9th repetition of Tat Tivam Asi, the text does not recognition. Record no a dramatic lightning, no moment of tears. A transformation described in phenomenological detail. The teaching simply ends. The next section of the Upanishad begins. The tradition has spent 2,000 years debating whether this is because liberation is immediate, the 9th sentence did it, or because liberation requires further practice, and the text simply elides the subsequent stages. The debate has never been resolved. This book will argue that the debate is a product of the scaffold, that asking, was liberation immediate or gradual? Is asking a question from inside the framework that the sentence was designed to dissolve. But that argument will be made in full in Chapter 6. For now, the sentence has been said 9 times. The text ends. Whatever happened in Sh Vetiketu as he heard it, whatever operation the 9th repetition completed, was already implicit in the first. Kossi, you are about to engage with the machine that was built to make that question answerable, not by providing an answer. By dissolving the cognitive framework in which the question was impossible to answer, what remains when the framework dissolves is not a philosophical conclusion. It is what was always already present before the question was asked. It is what is present right now, reading this sentence. The machine is about to start running. A word about the structure of what follows. 5 parts, 16 chapters. Each chapter performs one section of the dual pass analysis on a set of related texts, identifying first what the texts say and then, more importantly, what they do. The chapters are sequenced to follow the machine's own 3-phase architecture: installation, crisis, dissolution. Part 1 establishes who built it and how. Part 2 follows the Phase 1 texts: vocabulary installation, category correction, the first major operations. Part 3 follows the Phase 2 texts: the full deployment of the subject-object split and the criteria swap, and the witness problem. Part 4 follows the Phase 3 texts, self-consumption, the radical Gitas, the dissolution. Part 5 reverses the expected order. It treats the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, and the Bhagavad Gita as the culmination rather than the foundation, revealing them as the destination the entire curriculum was always approaching. Each part builds on the previous one. The sequence is not arbitrary, it is the machine's own sequence, and reading the book in order means being subject to the machine's operations in roughly the order they were designed to occur. You can read it out of order, but it will be less efficient. The cave is waiting, the flood has subsided, the sage has asked his question. Kossi, let us begin. Part 1, The Engineers. Adi Shankara and the design of a self-destroying system.